Good.
It's bright and cold in here.
It is cold in here.
Bright and cold.
Yes, so we can make it less bright. I don't know that I can make it more warm.
No. I don't know if we should make it less bright. Maybe they all got to have light in their eyes.
All right, wrap up your emails and texts and then close stuff up. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, did you do my email?
I did. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
Linda, you want to do the current events?
Sure.
While I get
It's not surprising. Ted Voorhees. Who's Ted? What made you decide to do this, the music tea? What do you think? What do you think about it? What's that? Right. Well. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a terrible idea, frankly. But you know, what was the first one? Was he wrote about the music T-shirt. You know, you get a download and a T-shirt. Like Most Def did the first one?
Yeah.
Last year, yeah. No, not a terrible idea, if you ask me.
merchandising.
You get something, you know. You get something. It's a piece of merch that you wear. I mean, I don't know if you have my CD in your collection, but I know you're wearing my T-shirt. I don't mind that. It seems to me like if you like the shirt, maybe you get songs with the shirt. So why not, right? Show of hands. Who likes the music tee? The what? I just said the what? The music tee, the T-shirt where you buy the T-shirt and you get downloads. It's like a single, T-shirt single kind of a thing. Yeah. What? Right. Well, yeah. You don't buy a stupid T-shirt, right? That was a very weak reaction, by the way. It's like people, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on the music tee? Now that we all understand the music T-shirt, who here would buy one? Okay, good. Fine. Still weak.
Is there a company that's doing it?
Girly Action, I think, is kind of, you know, spearheading it. Music T-shirts are now being counted by SoundScan, though. I hadn't really thought about it.
It's the merchandising business.
Yeah, Girly Action and Invisible DJ are doing it. They're doing it as a tool to boost CD sales, not as like a value add to a digital product.
So you buy the T-shirt and it comes with a CD.
Yeah, you
Buy the CD and it
comes with a T-shirt.
See, I would just put a code right on the T-shirt.
That's what I mean. That's the thing. It does. There's a tag with download codes, right? Which is like, to me, that's worth selling.
That I do. Yeah.
Like we're doing a similar thing with this book thing.
Right.
I'll tell you a slightly self-indulgent story. It's like we decided that, I manage Kristen Hirsch. We all know, right? So we had we had a CD ready to go, and we're doing the CD ourselves in the United States, and that's easy. And we can offer people the opportunity to buy it wholesale by requiring that they buy a minimum of non-returnable goods. I can sell them 6 for wholesale price. I was faced with the prospect of having to get a licensing deal in the UK or do a distribution deal in the UK, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It just seemed so incredibly boring to put out a CD in England. Like it just, she has a very good profile in England, and it seemed like we'd sell some, but it would be completely lackluster. So we decided that we'd approach some of the publishers who were talking to her about a book last year. There was one publisher among them who does handmade books. They do limited special edition books, and they're very open to free distribution of electronic books. You know, they think that free sells, which is good. It's in line with us and the way we feel about things like that. And we talked to this publisher named, they're called the Friday Project. They're part of HarperCollins in the UK. And we asked them if they'd be interested in doing a book as an album. So we wouldn't do a CD, not a book with a CD inside it. But we do a 60 glossy pages, hardbound book about the size of a paperback. In it would be these beautiful photos that were part of the album. There were downloads offered throughout a 2-year period. We have all these beautiful photos, like archival flower photos, and so we'd compile those and do lyrics and essays, and then we'd include a link to an online platform where people could remix, you know, download stems, get outtakes, demo versions, all that kind of stuff, and then they could upload their remixes. We're already hosting a community of uploads and stuff. So we just decided that we just worked it out so that's what we're going to do. Now, what that means is we're going to get a lot more press, and there's something that is very tangible. People can go into a record store and buy the book, or they can go into a bookstore and buy the book, but either way, they're buying the music by buying this thing you can hold in your hand, and it'll be kind of luscious and beautiful, and it'll be something that looks valuable. It's costing us to make about £1.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that all?
Which is absolutely amazing. I mean, that's the book game, you know, the book sale. I thought it was going to be very expensive.
Yeah, me too.
There's no way I could buy a CD with a beautiful booklet for £1.
Right.
So I buy this book, I get it for £1, and in the back we have download codes, and you know, the book acts as this key to an online platform. It admits the owner into the online platform, so they can get lossless lossless audio. We're doing FLAC, Apple lossless, and MP3, and then they can download the stems and all the pro audio. So it's a cool thing.
Trying to pull up the site for the Friday Project. Yeah.
It makes me happy to offer something that's valuable just to hold in your hand, because a piece of plastic, a plastic CD in a jewel box or even in a digipack, it's just not special anymore. And what do people do? Like, most people take that CD and they burn it right away. They make it portable somehow. So anyway, this way. Oh yeah, there they are. And they've got a special deal with HMV now, which is the only major retailer left in England. So we're in music shops, and we're in Waterstones, and we're in the bookstores. So it's really, really a cool thing. And they do limited, you know, everything's limited or special in some way. And their model is profit sharing. It's just a 50-50 deal, net proceeds deal.
But they're part of HarperCollins.
Yeah. Harper seeded them and then kind of bought them wholesale, you know, lock, stock, and barrel last year.
It's cool.
So you know, it's just so much nicer now to be doing this piece of music in, you know, this album in England in a form that will be noteworthy. And, like, you know, tech people are offering to write about it, music people are offering to write about it, book people are offering to write about it, and Harper is looking to franchise the idea and go to other musicians.
Smart.
So,
I mean, the 33 1/3, they should have been putting CDs and stuff a long time ago.
Yeah. But I mean, I was inspired. You know, George is really into 12 books, which is
12 books.
a really cool. I mean, in terms of like interesting approaches to business, 12 books is really great. They do one book a month, and they focus everything on that book. Yeah.
Which is a good model for a label of some sorts. You know,
Yep.
It doesn't have to be you content creators out there. It doesn't have to be a whole album. You could do 2-3 songs a month. But you see here, January. It's a really, you need those things and noteworthy kind of things. That, you know, the topic of today. This is just while we're going through this, just to, you know, we're building a music biz according to our syllabus. We've talked through the basics. We've talked to the partners in terms of values, first two. We did the management contract last time. So tonight we're covering the building, the business. The midterm I've got kind of roughly scheduled for March 1st. I wanted to talk with you, but that's...
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So where you should have read, just in case there's any confusion, is up through about chapter 4 of Good to Great, and then these chapters from my book, which are the kind of logical ones. And so tonight's theme really, just as we're talking about already, is how do we build this business? I know Jared had a question last time about where's Jared?
Jared?
Jared's not here. Well, Jared had a question last time about royalties, and we can talk through that, I suppose. But we want to get through building a business.
Right. Anybody have anything that they did as their current event they'd like to bring up right now before we move on? Anybody? Yes. Nigel.
About how big businesses like big brand names are kind of phasing out Twitter and not really including it in their marketing scheme, I guess.
Big companies aren't?
Like big ones, like
Right.
Coca-Cola, Verizon, all these guys.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because their growth, apparently Twitter's growth has slowed a lot, and they're not seeing much profitability just from, they're spending all sorts of money on marketing on Twitter. And then, like
Really?
Verizon has 5,000 followers or something. Like Perez Hilton doesn't spend any money, and a couple million.
It seems like that's the message.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's there are companies that are doing it right.
I mean, JetBlue,
I was going to say JetBlue or Zappos.
Zappos. Zappos, I was talking about this in my marketing class the other night. The Zappos dude, the Zappos CEO, man, I adore the fact that this guy I can't remember his name.
Tony.
Yeah.
Something or other. They got 1.7 million followers.
Look what he
But
tweets.
this is why.
Look what he tweets. He tweets humanity. He doesn't tweet promo. He tweets little tiny human moments.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not surprising that these big kind of corporate companies can't get out of their own way.
I was talking about the fact that Tony was tweeting a couple of weeks ago about getting stuck in a bathroom at Amazon. It's just great. He's just such a normal human being. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, great.
I mean, what is an SMB?
Look at this. Look at how it's just sell, 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 and
Well, I don't know what someone may have. I mean, what's this?
yeah. What? I mean,
Something screw. I mean, they're not paying attention.
there aren't human beings there.
Went like 8 months without having a new tweet.
Delta Airlines? Yeah. Well, I mean, of course. You turn your attention away from anything and it withers.
You have to decide whether or not you're going to do this stuff, and this is true of you all. How many of you all have started Twitter accounts? What are you guys chatting about back there? This? How many of you have Twitter accounts? How many of you all update them regularly? Right. So, about half. And it's you guys aren't really the market for Twitter, frankly. I mean, more and more of these studies are coming out that it's just, you don't have a network. You don't have there's no real reason for you guys to do it yet. But companies are the same way. I mean, this is true. And I mean, think about Verizon as a company generally. They're horrible. It's a horrible company. So it's not surprising that this is horrible too. Their corporate culture affects every part of their business. So they shouldn't have even bothered with this. It just doesn't make any sense.
And that's the thing. I mean, this is Twitter the next Second Life. I mean, I think that's a total mischaracterization.
Yeah. 106 million people here, 1.6 million people.
Yeah.
You see from these responses that they're trying to converse. They've dedicated somebody to do this. They're all response.
And I know they've been doing a lot of customer service that way too. They've been doing a lot of people. I mean, they don't want people to rely on it for customer service, but they do respond.
Yeah. So it's just to your point, it's not really. It's just the company. If the company is deciding that this isn't, if they're not going to devote the time and resources on it, it just becomes a liability more than anything else. And you guys as bands have to figure the same thing out. I'm in the process of writing online kind of webisode thing where one of the characters is this drummer guy in a band, and so we're creating a blog for him, and it's one entry, you know, in that like 3 years ago, right? And that's all because that's so representative of what most of these things are.
I mean, you know, I've been talking to people in my marketing class on Wednesday night about like whatever trick you have to employ to update regularly is a valuable trick. Like if you have to update your Facebook status through Twitter, then do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's great. I mean, you know, we were saying this. Did we say it in this class? The thing, you know, you have to make me like you before you can work me on anything, before you can sell me anything. I mean, duh.
Right. I mean, so Danny DeVito's following 6 people, and he's got 488,000 followers. You know, why is he doing this? It's an This is a much more accurate expression of who he is. And he's using it in a way that makes sense for him. Verizon clearly doesn't have it. It has to fit in. It's not for everyone.
He's out replying Zoe Keating down there, is that right? Looked like it. Further down. No, I missed it. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like you can look into, you can scratch the surface a little bit and see why Verizon tanked. You know, they didn't get it. They didn't make anybody get it.
So Danny DeVito is going to call somebody apparently, right?
Yeah, that's great. Retweets.
Retweet.
So you know, you pass it on. I mean, obviously, there's a great deal of value in passing on a tweet, right? When we're trying to get the word out about something, we say, please RT. You know, you want to use it for what it's, you know, for its strengths, right? It's easy to get information out.
Anything other interesting?
Yeah. Anybody else have something interesting to say? Nigel, that was good to talk about.
Just you guys think of the commercials last night?
A lot of regular music last night.
It was a ton of music last night.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't like Arcade Fire before last night, I mean, they were Grizzly Bear. I saw.
Yeah, right. That's great. Is there somebody who? Yeah, I was wondering if somebody keeps track.
Yeah, I saw something. It was in my Twitter.
That Tim Tebow commercial made me want to puke.
Oh my God.
What was it? I missed
Well,
that one.
I saw just
Other
the end
people's-
where he comes in, you know, thanks, Mom, or whatever the hell he did. What was that?
It was like his mom talking about how you almost didn't survive or I don't know, something like that.
Were we supposed to think she was talking about a little tiny kid? And then he comes in and we go, oh, he's not tiny. He's a 20-year-old. Is that what happened? Is that it? I guess.
Yeah, it was just kind of
Pretty much like if she had an abortion, then Tim Tebow would.
Oh, whoa, this was the anti-abortion ad.
It was like thank
Oh.
And it was based on false.
It was based on what?
Like false stuff, where she said like the doctors, she was gonna go use her pills, and they told her, oh, you can't have a baby, like you're too sick, so like you have to have an abortion.
Oh, so the entire premise was false anyway.
Have abortions wherever she was.
Oh. Ugh. Ugh.
It was a weird spectrum of music. All of you all that are thinking about getting into music supervision or whatever, this is kind of a rundown. Dr. Pepper used Kiss.
Yeah.
Arcade Fire was played during each ad for the 75th annual NFL Draft.
Oh, yeah.
Arcade Fire donated all their money to Haitian Relief. It says here from the licensing agreement, so probably not their performance income, which was going to be massive.
Yeah.
The Who, which was, anybody like The Who last night?
I was just turned off by his stomach getting caught in the guitar.
Why did he not,
What the hell was that all about?
No, what did Lefset say?
Lefset's just killed it. He said they killed classic rock overnight.
100 quotes from
his, well, he said it was shameful and it killed classic rock overnight, and then he posted the response to his tweets, and it was just like a shitstorm of people on both sides, you know, who thought.
I was there, and it was pretty good.
You were there.
From my seat.
Yeah.
I didn't even see what they showed on TV, but it looked pretty cool. It sounded good.
They didn't look good up close. You
No,
know.
Pete looked 90,
Pete looked just
and his
weird
stomach
and
kept getting
bad,
caught in the
yeah.
guitar, and he kept having to move it, and then you'd see it, and it was
Yeah.
just kind of weird.
Said that Roger Daltrey looked like a used car salesman.
Yeah, yeah, he looked.
He's almost 70 years old, Roger Daltrey is.
Not only that, but like, there were moments where it looked like he was singing to a live track.
Yeah.
It didn't look like he was
No,
on.
yeah.
I mean, he wasn't on mic very much. There was a moment that I was like, wait a minute. It seemed like he sang to a live track, if you ask me.
Yeah, Pete's guitar, I think, wasn't live because some of those windmills were off.
Yeah, he didn't even touch the
He was
strings.
not.
Oh, that's hilarious if that's true.
Yeah, that's right. No Keith Moon, no Who.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, yeah, it was a Who tribute band.
That's what I said. It's like a Who cover
I'm
band.
quoting
Yeah.
you, yeah. Yeah, with no Keith Moon, no John Entwistle. It's just like, what the hell?
But this is a weird mix. I mean, Cheap Trick, ELO. What is this?
I like the Green Police, and I was
The
so
Heavies,
surprised that was an Audi
Blur,
thing.
Grizzly Bear, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it just shows you how. What? T-Pain? Yeah. Well, I just thought, you know, if you were a Martian that came down and had never knew anything about Earth, and you sat down in front of the Super Bowl, you'd think, you know, we all wore underwear all the time, right? We all only ate Doritos and drank, you know, light beer, and
Yeah.
that men were just completely dominated by women,
Yeah.
right? And living in a very sad space unless they were able to drive their Dodge Charger.
Do you guys all watch? Does anybody watch Sarah Haskins, Target Women? Target Women. Oh my God, that's so totally worth it. Target Women, Sarah Haskins. It's on current TV. She takes woman-focused advertising. The yogurt one. Just look for the yogurt one. Oh, the yogurt edition. There it is. Oh, dude. Okay, watch this and you'll see. It's a couple of minutes.
Marketing has gotten so sophisticated these days that advertisers can aim for 19-year-old males with 1 year of college education who love cheese but hate that music and live in Montana. And then there are some demographics advertisers still like to hit with the obvious stuff, like an entire dinner. Here's Sarah Haskins with Target Women.
Sexy, clean, fun, young, girl, smart,
Underpants.
Hey, why am I holding all this yogurt? Because I'm a woman, and yogurt is the official food of women. Thanks. Just turn on your TV. Day and night, but mostly day unless you're watching Lifetime. There's gonna be some ladies just chilling out and eating some yogurt and appealing to our inner woman to get us to do it too.
This is good.
No, this is really good.
This is like private island good.
No, this is like long massage good.
First kiss good.
Shoe shopping good. There's more stuff I generically relate to than go to a wedding. This is like cute thing.
No, this is like Bernie Miss Dress good.
Never having to stand in line at the ladies' room good.
Not catching the bouquet good.
It's who serves yogurt at their wedding good. It's their human experience good. It's being first woman president good. Eat it. Yogurt can do anything. Yogurt eaters come from every race, but just one socioeconomic class. The class that wears gray hoodies. It's that I have a master's, but then I got married look. These ladies are on diets.
My diet? Well, yesterday I had an apple turnover. Well, that and Boston cream pie, white chocolate strawberries.
Apple turnovers and the white chocolate strawberries and the key lime pie. Get it? It's not real food. It's yogurt. The dry cleaning lady doesn't get it. So you need to let out.
No, out.
Who's on first? Yogurt is. Yogurt power. But maybe after you eat all 12 flavors, you feel a little, Don't worry. Jamie Lee Curtis understands. First, the bad news. 87% of this country suffers from digestive issues like occasional irregularity. She read that in Blue Paper Daily. But now, Jamie, tell me the good news.
Now the good news, our hydrogen is drinking yogurt called Activia that came home.
In the natural culture bifidus regularis, activity
Bifidus regularis.
help regulate your digestive system in 2 weeks.
It makes your insides go out. And if you open the fridge of a woman over 40 lately, just move over that half-eaten rotisserie chicken, and yes, you'll see Activia. It's very popular. So popular that everyone else decided to make one. There's Fiber One, and then there's Yo Plus, the funnest yogurt ever.
When you feel good inside, you feel good all over. Try Yo Plus for 10 days, and you just might feel like
I'm gonna shit my pants!
that's good and bad.
Yogurt. What else could a woman possibly need?
That's
All right.
fantastic.
She's awesome. She posts regularly, and her stuff is absolutely hilarious. But she has a great episode, a great segment on doofy husbands. All the commercials that have doofy husbands in them, and that's why I thought of it.
Yeah, but I mean, I just found those ads. It seems like a very depressing place to live right now. It's not relevant, not really my life, but man, oh man, if that's who they're spending millions of dollars to reach.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what they're spending millions of dollars to sell what though? You know, like to sell Doritos and light beer. I mean, we're not going to buy them anyway. Well, yeah, I mean, it was funny. I laughed despite myself. Actually, I was like, oh, I laughed at that. Shit.
I thought the Letterman one was good. You know,
I didn't see the Letterman one.
Letterman sits, huh? Yeah. And
Oh, well, he's
we didn't
he's
like
indie.
that. Yeah. He's sitting on a couch and eating chips or whatever and saying, I forget what he said exactly, and then you pan over and there's Oprah sitting between, and then on the other side is Jay Leno. And Jay says something, and then Dave does his Jay Leno voice. Like, imitates him right there. It was, it was the only time Jay Leno seemed relatively cool in the last 20 years.
Yeah. That's great. Well, I mean, that did a lot of good. I did him a lot of good, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's Letterman's idea.
It was Letterman's idea? Oh, that's great. Was it for Doritos?
I don't
Which
know.
is what- that's what Let- that's what-
It was for the Late Show.
Leno shilled Doritos for a
Yeah,
long
right.
time, so I thought maybe. You know that Sam, the Bill Hicks. bid
Yes.
on-
Oh, the advertising one.
Ooh, marketing. That's a
Marketing.
killer.
I wonder if that.
All right. So, anybody else? Corey, what'd you do? Mashups.
It was just someone talking about like another perspective of looking at mashups,
Oh, they're saying.
and that like it could be in some cases considered fair use, and that like not every sample should be illegal and have to pay.
Right. Well, that's the thing about copyright law, right? It doesn't matter if you profit or not. That's why statutory damages are there. But the issue is whether or not you're going to sue the artist.
It was just an interesting perspective on mashups.
Yeah, people keep talking. People keep bringing up girl talk at intro. They can't get over, how can it be illegal?
Well, the thing with Girl Talk that's like such an issue is that like if you paid all the prices, the licensing fees, it would be like $4 million
Yeah.
per album.
Yeah.
He's arguing a whole different thing, though. He's arguing it's transformative. In other words, that there is a defense to copyright infringement where if you transform a work into another work, and the reason the labels haven't taken it to court is that if they lose, they're done.
That was kind of what this article was about. That like they're using Pitbull as an example of the mashup artist Milkman,
Right.
and saying that like if you take words or something and put it over another track, that it just changes it into a completely different thing.
Right.
And then if it's a commentary.
Well, commentary is defense. This is different. We don't need to get into the esoterics of it, but yeah, it's typically been, you can't sample because you're creating, at best, a derivative work. And a derivative work is one of the exclusive rights you get when you create a copyright. So you can't do a translation of that. That's a derivative work. So that people are saying, well, you're sampling, then you're creating a derivative work of my work, you can't do it. Girl Talk has said, no, it's not a derivative work. I'm transforming it into an entirely new work, which I have the copyright on, which kind of harkens back to what the founders wanted to do with the commons,
Right.
that there should be stuff out there. So the labels are very nervous that they will lose,
Yeah.
at which point everyone who sampled anything is going to go, no, I just transformed it.
Right.
So,
That's a great position to take.
Yeah, no, he's, you know,
I
it
mean-
was smart. Whoever advised him, it was, and it's probably accurate. It's more accurate than, I mean, some of these samples were clearly not transformative.
Yeah.
You know, the Ice Ice Baby and all that stuff.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
just
yeah.
taking a thing. But he did. He
No,
did
when you
transform.
use it to create a new piece of art that is really a new piece of art.
And Paul's Boutique would be one that
Right.
they would make that same argument.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
We transformed the stuff. We manipulated the sound. We manipulated the tempo. We changed it into something completely different.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great
But
point.
don't use that as your defense right now. You brought up Bill, and we should probably watch this.
I showed this to my marketing class last semester.
Advertising or marketing, kill yourself. Just a little thought. I'm just trying to plant seeds. Maybe one day it'll take root. I don't know. You're fine. You do what you can. Seriously though, if you are, dude. No, really. There's no rationalization for what you do, and you are Satan's little helpers. Okay? Kill yourself. Seriously. You're the ruiner of all things good. Seriously. No, this is not a joke. There's going to be a joke coming. There's no fucking joke coming. You are Satan's spawn, filling the world with bile and garbage. You are fucked and you are fucking us. Kill yourself. It's the only way to save your fucking soul. Kill yourself. Plant seeds. I know the marketing people go, he's just doing a joke. There's no joke here whatsoever. Suck a tailpipe, fucking hang yourself, borrow a gun from a yank friend. I don't care how you do it. Rid the world of your evil fucking machinations. Whatever, you know what I mean. I know what all the marketing people are thinking right now. You know what Bill's doing? He's going for that anti-marketing dollar. That's a good market. He's very smart. Oh man, I am not doing that. You fucking evil scumbags. Oh, you know what Bill's doing now? He's going for the righteous indignation dollar. That's a big dollar. A lot of people are feeling that indignation. We've done research. Huge market. He's doing a good thing. God damn it, I'm not doing that, you scumbags. Quit putting a goddamn dollar sign on every fucking thing on this planet. Ooh, the anger dollar. Huge. Huge in times of recession. Giant market. Bill's very bright to do that. God, I was caught in a fucking web. Ooh, the trash dollar, big dollar, huge dollar. Good market. Look at our research. We see that many people feel trapped. If we play to them and separate them into the trapped dollar, live like that. I actually sleep like fucking babies at night, don't you? What did you do tonight, honey? Oh, we made arsenic childhood food now. Good night.
Childhood food.
Yeah, we just said, is your baby really too loud? Yeah, the moms will love it, yeah. Oh. Sleep like fucking shelter. This is your world, isn't it?
So I showed that at the beginning of my marketing class last semester, just to say that this is what we never want to be, the people he thinks we are.
Well, I think that's Verizon.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why people respond negatively to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're twittering in that sense, whereas Danny DeVito isn't.
Right.
JetBlue isn't. Zappos
Right.
isn't. And that's the good thing. I mean, that's why I like social media, even though I don't like using the term anymore, is that you can kind of not feel so gross about marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, you can humanize yourself, right? I was saying the other day, like a week ago or something, Kristen and I were talking about it, and I was like, it's really hard to demonize somebody if they've been humanized. Like, you demonize someone, it's easy just to see them in the extreme, to see them as black or white, just to see them as whatever is convenient to you to hate. But if someone's really been humanized, you're conflicted about that person. And if you're conflicted, then that's cool. Then you're on level ground. What? Was that you? Oh, okay.
All right. Anything else in there worth talking about?
I don't know. Was there anything else in here worth talking about?
I wrote about the Authors Guild and Google Books.
Interesting.
They're battling each other. Did they settle?
Yeah.
So how'd they settle it?
Well, I guess I should just. They sued Google Books because Google Books was scanning parts of their book and then putting it on the web for free. And from day
here.
one, some new, smaller company would just come in and start doing pretty much the same thing, but a little bit different.
Right.
If they lost, then they lose copyright for forever.
Right.
So they just want to get in front of it, and they decided to do something a lot like Creative Commons.
Right. So,
Um,
yeah, which you, yeah, you
And they even said, they released a statement to all their guild members that said, we do not want to be like the RIAA, specifically they said that.
very cool.
Who said that? Google or
Authors Guild.
the
The
Authors
Authors Guild.
Guild?
They said they don't
So
want
they
to.
reached some Creative Commons type thing that allows what? People to.
The authors can designate how their writings are handled, so they make it flexible copyright. You know, I don't know under what
That's-
mechanism.
I mean, that's assuming that the author hasn't assigned it to a publisher,
right.
right? I mean, who does the Authors Guild represent?
Writers?
All
It-
writers? I mean, are they like,
Not lawyers.
no, I didn't read the article. Just asking if this was,
Yeah, well, the Authors Guild if it's a publishing trade group like the RIAA, right? That would be one thing.
yeah.
But if
My
it's
understanding I even had a question about that, but I wrote it on the plane, I didn't have the internet. So I just used
you went to the Super Bowl, you know,
but-
I'm impressed.
This can't be it. I hope. They're building websites for free. Is that it?
It could be. Authors Guild versus Google, yeah. Settlement resources page.
What is this?
That's crazy. The guild offers this
So,
service.
so they're like the Screen Actors Guild
Yeah.
in theory.
Yeah.
But again, if you assign your copy, this just must be for.
American publishers in Google. So publishers were involved.
Huh. Well, I mean, what you're seeing here is a continued stress on copyright.
Right.
That, you know, I'll have to do a lot more research to understand what's happened here, but.
I have to say that we just delivered Kristen's book. You know, she's got this a real book. Not the CD book is a cute thing. You know, it's a gimmicky thing. But she's got a book coming out in the fall. We delivered it, and we've had our first marketing meeting. And in the marketing meeting, I kind of prepared all these arguments for why we should distribute free content,
Right.
and why free. I lined up all these arguments for promoting through free content, and how we wanted to do that, and what we wanted to do, and they were completely amenable. Like Penguin USA, completely amenable to whatever we wanted to do. 100 free pages, 4 free chapters, the whole book as an ebook, free in exchange for an email address. They were so pragmatic, so open to the idea that it's a new attitude. Totally.
Well, you know, and that's a good segue into the lesson. You know, building a music business today is so completely different than what it always has been, right? You know, we're at this disruptive time, and you know, as you'll see once you get to technology, technology accelerates you, good or bad, up or down. But I want to talk today about kind of creating the infrastructure and some things you can use. And I think probably the best way to start is
when we say be opportunistic about disruption, we're talking about, you know, when things are being turned upside down, there's always an opportunity there, right? There's something you can do to turn that to your advantage. When it when it looks bleakest. That's
so
great.
yeah, these are just being volleyed around the internet today. And what this is comparing essentially your options when you're going to do your digital distribution, right? And he doesn't say it. This is Duncan's blog. He didn't write this, but he doesn't say it. But he's comparing TuneCore, one-time $20 setup fee. I guess Nimbit works the same way, maybe.
Reverb Nation too.
Reverb Nation. So you pay one-time fee, no percentage of your sales, versus distributor B, which would be CD Baby, Iota, Orchard, that takes no setup fee, but keeps 10%. I think CD Baby's 9.
Yeah,
but,
10.
You know, whatever. It's
Yeah.
9, 10%.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good that somebody finally did this, right? Do the math. What you should decide is how many albums, you base your decision on how many you're going to sell. So they go through all this kind of pointless math. Artist from distributor A, year 1, 7 dimes, X number of CDs, you got a $20 fee. And then there's the math for the 9%. And as he says, in many business situations, a commission-based model makes perfect sense. The management model that we talked about last time. A manager that adds value should take his or her 15%, right? And this was the fundamental argument when we started TuneCore. We are providing no value beyond putting the stuff up, right? It's wrong. It's ethically wrong to take a percentage for every sale when we're no longer providing value. There's nothing inherently unfair about a distributor taking a percentage of an artist sale for their services. And again, let's ask what service once it's up. However, it's important to understand how commissions impact over time. So here's the math, right? An artist who costs you to distribute an album, 2 years, use a distributor A and distributor B. Under distributor A, the cost is $60. $20 setup, $20 fee. And then under B, 10% of your sales. At 50, you sell 50, 35 bucks. So as soon as you cross 100, you're better off at A. At 200, 500, you know, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And yet people keep doing it, and that model keeps going. As you build these businesses, right, these are the types of decisions you're going to have to make. I'm not advocating for TuneCore. The one that, is it in Grooves or not in Sounds?
No.
There's that other
Yeah,
aggregator. There's another one out there that does, so the services that they'll claim that they're going to give you is quote unquote marketing. And what that means is, okay, we'll get you in the Amazon, you know, get you some branding on Amazon, get you some shelf space essentially online. And I would just say, unless you've got real, I mean, you guys could, you know, you could do something and they might say, oh, Kristen Hershey's a commodity, known name, you know, we'll put her somewhere, but an unknown artist, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't, I wouldn't affiliate on those conditions, you know, just because they say they're going to, that they provide marketing support.
Right.
It's just too, it's too nebulous. There's nothing that I can hang my hat on in that regard. I'd rather just get an online promotions person and use TuneCore.
Yeah.
You know, if I have an online promotions person, and now publicists are doing a lot of online promotion, so if I have a publicist on the case, now they know editorial people at Rhapsody and at iTunes, and you know, I'd rather throw my, you know, take my chances at getting a feature in those online places through a publicity contact or a promotion contact.
Right.
And just keep the money.
So we want to try and guide you through some steps about what the best way to kind of set your businesses up. Anybody have CDs up on iTunes at this point? How'd you get it up there? Which channels?
I don't even know what the whole process is.
Well, you know, you can't go direct to iTunes.
Go direct to iTunes.
Right, I don't know what's up there.
And so when you say, you know, be opportunistic about disruption, what allowed Nimbit, Reverb Nation, or whatever to even exist was being opportunistic about disruption. People wanted to get on iTunes. iTunes wouldn't let them go directly. So they started businesses. Who else? Who's gotten stuff on iTunes and knows how? How did you guys do it? CD Baby in TuneCore.
Well, I've done
Different releases?
Different times,
Right.
yeah.
I found out about TuneCore, I tried it, but it's about the same.
About the same in terms of sales. How many are you selling?
One album on TuneCore and I have 2 on CD Baby.
Right.
Probably sold for my old band, probably sold like 200 on CD Baby and TuneCore is like the same.
So you should see more payment from TuneCore then, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just to be clear.
According to the man.
How was the process? I mean, what would you recommend to people? What would you recommend to somebody getting their music up on iTunes?
Which one? I guess I'd recommend TuneCore because you do get more money, big larger percentage, and is it cheaper? Is that a fee too?
There is well, if you're doing physical on CD Baby, and I don't know if you still have to do physical with CD Baby to get to
I don't think
the
you do
digital
have to do
side.
physical anymore.
Just load up the digital.
Yeah. So, real quick, because I know you guys, have you heard about legal forms of ownership in other classes at this point? So I don't want to drill this into the ground, but I do want to make the point in a management class, if you don't deal with this, what you will default to is a sole proprietorship if there's one of you, right? So you have a management firm, you don't deal with it, you're a sole proprietorship. Similarly, if it's a band, 3, 4 people, whatever, and they don't deal with this and they're pooling their money, the law is going to look at it as a partnership, right? And, you know, you guys have had this before. What are the downsides? What's the downside of a sole proprietorship? In the back, yep. What, Eric?
It's like personally liable for everything, so like all the risks you take, like loss of money, start from 0 to 100%, right?
Well, loss of money, you know, no one's forcing you to lose that money. In other words, if you decide you're going to put more money into the business, but your personal assets can become at risk if you get sued, that type of thing. So you're managing a band. You've got an arrangement with the band where the law sees you as a partnership. The band infringes on a copyright, right? You get sued. There's statutory damage involved. You get a judgment against you, whatever. And they go after your house, right? I know this doesn't sound like much at this point to you guys because you don't have many assets. And that's why I don't think it's imperative that you run out and start LLCs right now. But the other thing with partnerships, if they deem you a partnership, if any member of the partnership leaves, the partnership goes away. And so it's real important, and we should talk about intra-band agreements tonight as well. You know, what you're going to advise your band to do. We talked last time about, okay, so this is the agreement that you and the manager are going to have, but we didn't really talk about who's going to contract. The manager, as hopefully an LLC, will contract with what? Who's signing the other side of the agreement? And if you're the manager and you get into some situation where you got to sue or something like that, this becomes a problem. All of a sudden it was a partnership, someone left, the law goes, well, the partnership is gone. You have no one to sue. There's no agreement, there's no more binding agreement. So what you need to suggest for your bands is they have to create some entity to contract with you, right? So if it's a band with 4 members, 1 member can contract with the management firm, but then the other 3 have no ties, right? If you want to contract with the whole band, you either have to contract with them as individuals or with some organization like an LLC. What do you guys do?
We use, in this case, Kristen is a key member in on her record deals. She's the only writer,
right,
publisher.
But with Throwing Muses, who contracted?
Kristen did.
Kristen.
She was the key member in that case, and she contracted under an umbrella corporation, Yes Dear Music Inc.
Okay.
So that we, you know, she was the signee on the 4AD deal, the Warner Brothers deal.
Right.
They needed just one person on there.
You set up a corporation.
And there was a corporation.
Okay.
It was an S corp. Yeah.
Right. So, but is that clear when you're managing somebody and you need to sign that contract that we talked about last time? You can do it one of 2 ways. One member can be that key member, which means if that person leaves, the contract goes away. You sign with all 4 members so that 1 member can leave, 2 members can leave. You still have an agreement with them. Or the best way, get the band to form, I would say, an LLC. We can talk about the reasons why that's easier than a corp in a second. And then contract with you that way. And you got to protect yourself on this. And you should get a lawyer involved. And be very careful about things defaulting to partnership. Same deal if you and a friend start a management firm. The right thing to do, even if there are only 2 of you, start an LLC with both of you as members, right? If you don't, it's going to be a partnership. All of the assets get lumped under a thing, and if there's a dispute, most of the time the courts aren't going to bother with it. They're going to say, split it down the middle. Go away, right? They don't have time to sit there and hear all the oral arguments about this, that, or the other thing. And, as I say, one of the partners leaves, one of the partners dies, God forbid, the partnership's done, dissolved, right? Also in a partnership, how do you pay your taxes? Who's paying, you know? Is it the business, you've got your income tax, your Social Security number is the only thing the government's going to look at. So you're both going to have to pay your taxes. It's a mess. Avoid them. The better way is an LLC. Stands for limited liability company, not limited liability corporation, and it's sort of a step in between partnership, sole proprietorship, and corporation. They're easy to form. They cost you about $400. You can do it right online at the state's government and the entrepreneurship class. I'll make you form one. We'll go through the steps at least. There's anybody here from that little legal group? There's now an EU that's doing this.
Yeah, Dylan.
Dylan, yeah. I mean, this is what you're doing, right? I mean, part of the thing is. So I would highly recommend that you guys with bands go see Dylan and the others and form this stuff. You know, there are a couple reasons why. The main reason is the separation of your personal assets from the business's assets, which is huge. But another big one is it forces you to confront, just like last time we were talking about the pre-contract discussions, where it's like some of these contract points will force you to see if the values align. So you'll sit there with the other people in your little business, band or whatever, and you're going to have to talk through things like voting. Right?
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly you find out that perceptions are different. You know, when you talk about who owns the band name, you know, I mean,
it's a huge issue.
When you do your registrations, who's the writer? Who's the songwriter? A lot of people are like, what do you mean I'm not the songwriter? I play drums on every single song. Yeah. I was there at rehearsal when we wrote the song.
Songs are defined by law as what? Lyric and melody. Yep. So poor George Harrison, all those beautiful, you know, Beatles guitar lines that the songs wouldn't have been the same without him. He's not a writer. Right. It's John and Paul.
We'll talk about that in the band agreement, you know, the way of accommodating.
Band agreement. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that in a minute. But so, as I say, the LLC will force you. You don't have to do articles of incorporation like you do here, but you should address the voting issues with the band name. You don't. I mean, this happens to so many bands. I mean, the Who, frankly. Obviously, Townsend and Daltrey own the name of the Who, right? But if they hadn't done this agreement, you know, maybe Intwist or, you know, Moon's kid or something's running around being the Who. And you see this. There's like 14 Frankie Goes to Hollywood's touring, unbelievably. Yeah. Surprising there's one, but they're new, you know, or the original Rascal, you know, like what do you call it? Yeah. Spinal Tap, the new originals, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so LLCs, it's the right way to go. So I'm not going to make you work through it, but Dylan and that group can help you. Corporations, the advantage to that, they're more expensive to form. They're more expensive to maintain. They help you with respect to general. I mean, the only time I've ever formed corporations, and I'm curious to know why you guys went that way rather than an LLC, but TuneCore, we formed a corp because we knew we needed to raise money. So LLCs, you can't issue stock. You can sell memberships, but it's kind of a mess. Corporation, you can issue different, there's large, I'm not going to get into the vagaries. Corporations, you can issue different classes of stock. So you could say, you go to your family members and say, look, we need your money. We'll trade you some stock, but we don't want you voting. So we give you non-voting shares, right? Whereas the founders have founding shares where they get to vote, they're worth more. It's really for, you know, I don't think it's really, and again, I'll defer to you, but I don't tend to recommend it to bands. I just think it's overkill. If you're starting a business and you need to raise money, this works pretty well.
Can I ask a naive question in front of everybody? Isn't LLC a more recent convention?
It is.
Because I think that's why
it could be. LLC, yeah, I mean, LLCs are within the last 6 or 7 years where they've really gotten popular. So it may not have existed.
It didn't. Yeah. We did Yes to Your Music in 1990.
No,
and we did Throwing Muses in 1989.
LLCs were a development in the mid-90s, I want to say, that to make, because these are just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have to.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tax returns are, you know, I mean, we file late every year because we're waiting for our K-1s. And
right.
It's nuts.
So it's hard. And remember here, when I say issue shares, it doesn't mean you have to be Apple. You can be a private company, value the company at something, $100,000, just based on you guys as being smart or whatever. You got to pull the number out of your ass. And then at that point, you can go raise 10 grand for 10% of the company by issuing shares. Right. So if you're thinking about starting a business where you got to raise money, this can work. This can work too, but this is better.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
When we were having discussions with the band about forming the corporations, I remember this is way back, obviously. The argument that we got from a couple of band members was, I don't want to be a part of a corporation. It doesn't matter anyway. If somebody sues us, they're going to come after us as individuals too.
They can only come after you to the extent that you've contributed personal stuff to the corporation. So in other words, you start something up, everybody's got to fund it somehow, right? Oh, we're all going to put 10 grand in, or we're going to put our intellectual property in, or whatever.
Right.
You get sued, they can come to you for that 10 grand. They can't then come to your house and all that stuff. The only way that they can come after your personal assets when you set up one of these is what? You remember the term? Anybody? Said you've had this. Somebody said it. Say it again.
What?
You pierce the corporate veil, right? And that means that you commingle. So you set up an LLC, right? And instead of keeping your books separate between your personal finance and your business finance, you start paying yourself out of the LLC, right? Or you start throwing money into the LLC. Usually it's money coming out. And then the courts go, now you've pierced the corporate veil. Anybody can get right at you.
Right.
And this happens with corporations too. You've got to be really, really careful. What's not up here, which I guess is relevant, is 501c3s, which are nonprofit organizations. And what that is, 501c3 is a tax-exempt structure, which means you pay no income tax. It also means that you can have no profit. Anything at the end of the year has to be pushed back into the business, and nobody owns it, right? There are probably some of you out there that want to start nonprofits, and 501c3s is the way to go. They're harder than this to set up, but not as hard as this. And I mean, you can talk about this with cash. There's tremendous scrutiny because the government does not like not getting their tax dollars.
Yeah, they set the bar very high.
Right.
There's extensive questionnaires, extensive scrutiny. There's a review period. You get probationary status. Being designated a nonprofit on the state level is quite a bit easier, but once you hit the federal government, they really rake you over the coals before they approve your nonprofit status. Cash has had provisional nonprofit status for a year now, and they're still sending questionnaires. They indicate that that there will be no issue, that this is all routine, but
It takes forever.
it takes forever.
Yeah.
Is there a ceiling on wages?
Well, and that's a great question. So, and I know people that are in this spot. I've got a friend that runs a nonprofit drug addiction company, and it is making more money than he can spend, right?
Wow.
Which is a sad commentary on our world. But he's bringing in so much money, he can only pay a salary to himself that is commensurate with other nonprofits of that level. You can't go, well, this for-profit thing is paying millions of dollars. They say, no. You need to look at other nonprofits. So he hits this ceiling of a couple $100 grand a year, which sounds like a lot, until you look at something bringing in a profit, net profit, tens of millions of dollars. So he's buying land, he doesn't know what to do with all the money. And he's kicking himself for starting a nonprofit. I think it's a good problem to have, but he can't pay himself millions of dollars a year. Right. But you can, there's some wiggle room, but once you get up into that range, as Billy says, they will scrutinize the hell out of you. The other thing is you've got no exit, right? This guy can't, he just has to leave. Once you set a nonprofit, if somebody comes and says, I want to buy this thing, what are they buying?
You guys know that, the whole thing about exit strategy, right? I mean, this is like, the thought is you grow it and IPO it, or you grow it and sell it, right? There is the idea that you grow something and let it throw off a tremendous amount of cash.
Yeah, but you can't do that with a 501c3.
No, that's what I'm saying.
So your liquidity moments, as Billy says, is an IPO, which is unlikely, increasingly unlikely, right? An initial public offering where you sell shares to investment banks. The banks then sell them on the stock exchange, and you can get very rich or not. A purchase which hopefully will happen at TuneCore one of these days, because I've got a lot of stock that I can't get any money out of unless someone goes, okay, we're going to buy you. This happened at Lala, and I got a couple bucks, right? So at Lala, they'll give people some stock because they can't afford to pay people, and then Apple came in and bought them. The stock price was X, Apple paid X times whatever, and you were able to cash your stock in. That's your liquidity moment. The third way is through dividends. At the end of the year, we got $100,000 profit. We're going to pay it out to our stockholders. But in a 501c3, you can't.
Right.
You have to find something else to do with that money. Yeah.
Is there any way to like just refile?
No. Once you establish yourself as a 501c3, they're not going to let you go back to a for-profit thing. It would it's just impossible. You know, you'd have to shut it down and start again. But no, they don't like that at all. You know, because they're onto that scheme. Then they're going to go back and say, well, look, you didn't pay taxes on all this money for all this time. You can go from these things to this pretty easily. Hard to go from this to this. So you have to kind of make a decision.
What about vice versa? What about dropping from corp to LLC?
You can. I mean, you just, yeah.
Why?
As far as taxes go and bands, especially at a lower level, like, what do you, like, how do they determine how many tax income tax you play? Because, like, when you're playing shows, like, that money train is kind of sketchy, you know?
Well, yeah.
And, like, you know what I mean?
Okay, well, here's the right answer, and you can do with it what you want. This is income, right? You take your income, you add it up, you subtract your expenses. That gives you your basis, right? At the end of the year, you got to pay taxes on that basis, on what's left over. Now, what you're declaring, what you're not declaring, they will smack you, right? And it'll happen.
You realize that it's easy to hide that it's easy to hide that
Cash,
money.
so it's easy to hide.
But what will you do? What is the risk you're taking? How fast and loose do you want to play with that, and what's the most responsible way? I mean, you can also you can fiddle around with the basis to a certain extent, but again, like how far do you want to push that? How prudent is it? Is it good practice to put yourself in a position where you can get effed pretty easily?
Yeah, I mean, you want to get in the habit of the money comes in. I mean, I hope that all of you will be in a spot where there's tons of money coming in. One thing to remember, and I say this with all due caution, the IRS does not want to shut you down, right? They will be a thorn in your side. They'll be a pain in your ass, but it does them no good to just shut you down, right? So at the beginning stages, while you're developing, file something, pay something, and move along. Don't not pay anything. Pay something.
I would say it's hard. It'll be hard for you to show an awful lot of profit if you're a struggling new band.
Yeah, I mean, unless you guys are doing something that you really need to share with everyone. I mean,
really tell me what you're. Think about what you're spending. Document what you're actually spending to play the gig.
Right.
I can't
That's
imagine
a great
you're making
point.
that much money.
You should do a profit and loss. I mean, every ounce of money spent associated with that income, you can write down your taxable income. So if you got paid, for easy math, $1,000, every phone call, those are all costs that go against that. And then on top of that, you've got reasonable overhead costs every year that can reduce your taxable income. Office supplies, travel, right? Every mile, what's the rate now?
Rehearsal time or space, 39 cents?
39 cents a mile.
A mile?
Every mile can be written down off your taxable income. What else?
Because if you write down mileage, you can't take maintenance.
You can't take maintenance.
Right. You can't charge for
And
an oil
depreciation
change.
too. Was that depreciation as well if you take mileage?
Right.
So you have to choose. Like you can take the gas cost or the mileage, right? Yeah. But and every year, like stuff like subscriptions. There are things that are very legit kind of costs. Yeah.
Office
supplies, furniture, phone.
Media. You can buy media. CDs.
CDs. That's exactly right. That's why, they used to give expense accounts to A&R people. You can buy as many CDs as you want as long as we can write them down. Meals. But here's where you get into veil piercing. You can't expense a meal that's not business related. So if you've got an LLC and the whole band goes out and you eat and you talk band business and you use your judgment, is it real band business or are you just hanging out? You can write that down, right? If, however, you decide I'm going out to dinner and I'm going to use band funds for that, you're piercing the corporate veil. If they ever find out, you will lose your LLC status, and they can. So
it's really challenging when you have like a corporate credit card.
Yeah.
You want to put things on a corporate credit card because it's for the band basically.
Sort of. But I would recommend maybe a corporate card. Yeah. I mean some card for the band. It'll just make your expenses much easier.
You track everything so much more readily. I'd also recommend Mint.
Well, I was Mint or my favorite new app.
Shoebox.
Shoebox.
I bought it.
Yeah,
I
it's,
bought
mean, it's
the-
cheap, right? It's like, you know,
Yeah,
$5
but I'm
or
doing it
something.
because I can't tell you how bad I am with the back pocket.
It's just, you know, every expense I get, I hit my little shoebox app, and you take a picture of it. You just hit capture receipt.
Take a picture of your receipt.
Take your picture of your
with
receipt,
iPhone.
it uploads it, and then you can categorize it. And then you don't have to have boxes of receipts. Also, if you do have boxes of receipts,
You send
you
them.
can mail them to them, and they'll scan them for you.
So I have an envelope on my desk right now that says shoeboxed on it, and I'm going to be mailing that envelope full of crap that I can't even be bothered to take a picture of,
Right.
just to get my money's worth.
And it's pretty cheap.
Like $10 a month.
Yeah, compared to like what you can lose every year in
That's great.
unreimbursed stuff. It's
But if you don't know
worth-
Mint.com, I mean, for you guys, it would be easy to get involved with Mint. It's really, really easy and free. I think Quicken just bought it. Intuit just bought
Yeah,
it.
Intuit bought it.
But
and
Mint
that-
is fantastic for tracking expenses and for keeping track of your accounts. You type in all your stuff. You type in all your credit cards, any loans, any bank accounts. It's absolutely awesome. Easy as hell. Is there a tutorial?
Yeah,
or something?
I was looking for some video or something.
Yeah.
But it's really, it is really great. They've got an iPhone app. So there's no excuse really for you not to be using this stuff.
They make some recommendations, which is how they make some of their money. They say, you know, you're paying X% on a credit card. We can get you a credit card at
Right.
you know X lower percent. Sorry, Charles, you got a question?
Yeah, my dad wrote off part of our Super Bowl trip because he went with somebody who works in his office and his banker.
Entertainment is a
Yeah.
valid expense.
Yeah.
I mean, the IRS will list the categories. Meals and entertainment is a big one. That, I'm sure your dad did that because this is business that, you know, by doing that, he's going to make more money. That's all the IRS cares about. Did this thing that you do relate to your business?
You can justify
And
a
be
lot
careful.
of stuff.
I mean, does everybody know what write it off means too? I think there's so much misinformation about that.
Yeah, you don't get the thing for free.
You don't. It just means if you've got $100,000 in tax liability, right? It'll reduce your taxable income. So that $1,000 on the Super Bowl doesn't mean that you have $1,000 less of a tax payment. He probably saved $20 on his taxes or something. You know, it's not what you think it is.
Right.
All right. So the infrastructure that I think is really important to at least talk about, and we can figure out what of these is still relevant or not. But you know, as you're figuring out, okay, well, what is this thing I'm doing here? You know, we talked about management, law, the booking, publicity, and it's interesting you say, you know, what you just did about how the role of the publicist is changing. You know, and it has to. I mean, it's you know, you're no longer going to be going out trying to get reviews in Rolling Stone or something. It's can you get presence on wherever. Promotions, and this is a pet peeve of mine only because I've seen students screw it up. When we say promotions in the music business, we're talking about radio, right? So I remember one year I had Andy Allen from ADA come down here and speak, and somebody came up to him afterwards and he said, "So what do you want to do in the business?" And she said, "Promotion." And he said, "Oh, radio or something." She said, "No, I want to book gigs." Or something.
Right.
And he was just, you know.
Yeah.
So it's one of these kind of terms of the industry where, you know, you don't want to embarrass yourself.
That's where the promotion EU went wrong last year, from what I understand. Everybody thought it was being a promoter,
Right.
working, you know, booking gigs and putting on shows.
So, you know, we've defined management as getting things done through other people, figuring out what their values are, finding their customers. This leads to some sort of marketing plan and leads to action. The kind of Deming cycle, which is so crucial to everything, needs to be your just ingrained in you. So make some kind of plan. It's the ready, fire, aim approach, right? Get a plan together, but don't get bogged down in sort of analysis paralysis. Plan, then get something out there, study the results, change it, and do it again. right? And we talked about this with respect to my little grid of, categories, Facebook followers, Twitter, all that stuff. Put something into action, figure out what's working, what's not, and then refine over and over and over again.
I think that's a massive misconception that a lot of people who aren't focused on business and management as in the business sense don't carry with them internally that you're meant to do.
Yeah.
Don't think you need to have, that idea of analysis paralysis should be a very freeing idea to all of you. It's like, look, plan, do something, do it, then look at it, figure out what you have to do to make it better, and then fix it, and then keep doing it. That to me is, as a layperson, very freeing idea, and it makes me feel like, oh wait, I can just go and do.
It hit me, real hard when I first kind of came upon that concept. It's not my concept, obviously. It's Deming, who, if you're looking for any reading, anything you can pick up by Deming is worth picking up.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like Old Testament in terms of marketing
it's foundational
stuff, right?
stuff.
Total quality management.
Total quality, and we'll talk about some of that tonight as well. So in terms of law, I don't want to get too bogged down in this. I mean, again, I'm biased. I'm really psyched about the Legal EU. I think that really solves a need, amongst the artist community. The one thing the Legal EU is not going to do that I think, as you are sussing out if you need a lawyer, look for lawyers that are thinking strategically, and I don't think most do. My problem with most lawyers is they tell you all the things you can't do, rather than thinking about ways that you can, connect you with people. The best lawyers I know say, I got somebody who's working on something similar. Let me put you together. I was lucky early on with my little tiny label. I met, did you ever know Michael Hafitz? Did you deal with him?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and he said, oh, you know what, I know this little, I represent a company in Australia. Next thing I know, I had a distribution deal in Australia, and it saved my ass, right? So, and it allowed him to get paid. Don't look just for lawyers that are just going to, oh no, you got to worry about this. I mean, we are trained to worry about everything, but there are ways to kind of help, let them help you connect. At the early stages, we've tried to give you information about what the contract should look like so you can save some money on that, but I still say you should have some intermediary. Both parties don't need a lawyer. It is a conflict, but as long as both parties agree, so band and manager, if both parties go, yeah, we're cool with this lawyer kind of representing both sides, let that lawyer work with you, because you need to have that document in place. And then I'd be remiss in saying anytime any legal document is sent your way, have a lawyer review it. So, whether that's from a label, a synchronization, I don't think club gigs really, you can probably figure those out yourself. But you'd be surprised. More and more clubs are saying, well, wait a second. Well, let's put it this way. One of the companies I work with, Wolfgang's Vault, Bill Graham, all those performances that were recorded and the band knew about it became half the property of Bill Graham. So when you go and play, some club, if they say, can we record this, and you say yes, they own 50% of the copyright of that recording. By copyright. It's what the copyright law says. If you go and do a radio performance, you play on the radio, and the radio station says, we're going to record this, and you say, okay, they own 50% of that. They can sell that. They can distribute it. They've got 50% of the copyright. They got to pay you 50% of any income that they make, but they don't have to get your permission to do anything. So maybe it's a performance you don't like. You can't stop them, right? So, what you need to ask, if they say we're going to record it, you say, sure, you can record it, but we own it, right? Essentially, the club is acting as a work for hire, right? And the consideration is you playing. Is that clear? Because it'll come
up.
You. Yeah.
It happens more now than ever before.
Everybody's streaming stuff and downloading
clubs, radios.
things.
They all think they need that extra content. They all want to run tape. They all want to shoot video. It really does come up.
Right.
It's okay. It's cool to be seen. Cool to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
and it can be a fair exchange. If the club is going to actually do something with that copyright to gain you more value in the marketplace, fine. But if they're just going to sit on it and then sell it later without you, approval. So lawyers, the payment range is all over the map. Actually, 500 is low at this point. I've seen 700. There are these kind of percentage of the deals where, okay, if you go and, I mean, it seems so anachronistic to talk about record deals, but it used to be, if I do a record deal for you and I get you 100 grand, I'll just take 10% of the deal, right off the top. So I'll get 10 grand for doing the deal. There's value billing, which is like this, they'll take their hourly payment, keep track of that, and then reduce their percentage based on that hourly thing.
Right.
It's just pretty comprehensive,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
We've only ever paid hourly.
Talk about it up front. Lawyers are obliged to talk about this up front, though so many of them don't. It's an ethical breach not to be very clear with what your hourly rate is. Ask them. And if they just say, we'll figure something out, that's not good enough, say, look, I need to know. Because, it'll be reasonable. Reasonable, and remember that term from last time, reasonable. Put a big circle around it. Yeah. Reasonable to you, a couple $100. Reasonable to them, a couple $1,000. It's a big gap.
We're always careful not to go on the clock with the attorney.
Well, that's a good point too, right?
We'll use a paralegal, somebody in the office who bills at a reduced rate.
And so you'll go, and this will happen to, John Michael's got, kind of high-powered attorney who represents him, but his work is being done. This guy probably bills $600-700 an hour. The work is being done by either a paralegal or a lower-level associate at $150 an hour. Still a lot, but it's a fraction of what the other
significant savings. And you can be explicit about that. You can say, I want to know when I'm going on the clock.
Right.
You need to know.
Right.
At $500 an hour matters.
So the booking side of things, just over and over again, and these guys are, been pioneering this, non-traditional venues. I think that the tired path of playing the same place that REM played and all that stuff, as much as I love them, they blazed their own path along with Black Flag and some others, and you guys were blazing the path and the beneficiaries of some of that blazing, but that path is worn out, as best as I can tell.
Everything has to be special. I mean, it's really crazy. Either it has to be special in content, or it has to be special in setting, or it has to be special in conduct, like in the way you do the gig. Maybe we do it as a meal and the show.
Something.
Or as a, or we do something in a chapel where shows don't get done very often. Or we do a show that's all murder ballads. Or, there's always got to be something to differentiate it. Yeah, I mean, it's Seth's idea, you drive down the road, you see cows, there's one purple cow. You're going to pull over to see the purple cow, right? It's got to be remarkable. It has to be something special.
Any shows that you guys have seen that satisfy that remarkable quality?
A lot of DIY shows are really good that way.
A lot of what, sorry?
House shows. Denton? Yeah. There's house shows in Denton. Big.
And what makes them remarkable? How does it work out for the bands? Just generally. I mean, what's the vibe? I mean, is it a good positive? Is the band selling merch of some kind at these things? Do they pass the hat?
I was reading about that scene, and there's another concertsinyourhome.com who's really trying to be a hub for that world, and it's pretty great. That to me, it's exciting because what's special about it is that there's this low barrier there's no barrier between fan and the artist, which serves certain artists very well, serves others not so well. But this low barrier it really works well for certain artists, and it is amazing what happens when you get 60 people in a living room who hear an artist do their thing. Not everybody can play an instrument and sing a song. Not everybody can be truly moving or truly intense. And when you're in a club setting, it's like you're watching it on TV. You're seeing this band on stage with the fake lights, and it seems two-dimensional.
Well, I think it's to your point. I mean, you saw The Who at the thing, which doubtless was better than what we saw. Because what we saw was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, like aggressively bad.
And when you put people in a room with music, there's something really, really cool happens where like it's moving, and then the bands sell more. I mean,
Sure
there
they
are
do.
these.
That's what I was asking you. You know, they're selling stuff.
You know, there's troubadours now who are selling so much more, making so much more money every night.
Yeah.
There's this tree house on Esplanade.
What
I
is
heard
it?
about the treehouse. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going down. They throw these big, ridiculous parties.
Wow.
Thousands of people.
Literally going down. The tree's house going to fall down, or
Sounds like it.
They're going to get popped. I mean, they're charging money for beer.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're not everything.
Well, here's something that just if you're a band or a manager of a band, so yeah, each one is its own scene. It's amazing. And
Right.
if you're a band manager or a band, think about this: you play a paying gig at a club that books national acts in Boston. You're not really going to play another paying gig that books national acts in Boston for a while,
Right.
or in Worcester, or in wherever. But if you play a house show and you make $750 that night, which is as much, if not more, as you might make in a 250 capacity club, you're going to play. You could play another one in Boston the next night and do the same thing. It's been remarkable to like really monitor the house show thing and see how financially rewarding it can be, and the bonds of
Well, that's the thing.
the bonds of contact and commitment are amazing.
Anybody else seen a remarkable show? I mean, who's a remarkable band? Nobody.
I personally,
Yes.
I went to a gig in Providence, Rhode Island, one of these warehouse gigs, Noise Corps gig.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like it was Lightning Bolt and Hella, and and my kids' band, and everybody was on the floor. You know, Lightning Bolt always sets up on the floor, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Just on the floor, and it was just like so charged. And again, it had kind of the better elements of a house show, in that everybody was just like right there and part of it, which is very inspiring.
It's that crazy band from like Israel. What are they called? Monotonic. Yeah, that was the last like truly remarkable show I saw. Dude got hurt apparently. That'll do it. Yeah, I mean one of the I should find a
What
video.
was it? I don't
Have
know.
you,
the
you
deal.
know these guys?
No.
Monotonic, right? Is that their name? Monotonic.
We were talking about, somebody brought them up in the marketing class the other night.
Is that the Israeli reggae?
It's
not reggae,
No,
it's
the other
sort of
guy was the reggae
rock.
guy. Somebody was talking about monotonic in our class because of this, because of the Israeli reggae guy.
That's not them. Oh, that with the X, right. Thank you. I knew it was.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
It is sad.
First result, MySpace.
Well, you'll see that.
Oh, Paradiso.
They set up in the audience and sort of move around. They get the audience to hold the cymbals and the drum sets.
See how he might get hurt?
Anyway, it doesn't translate, certainly doesn't translate to record, and it doesn't really translate to video either, but
The
live,
gigs are
it's-
events.
They're events, for sure, yeah. Let's see.
Oh, there you go. Gig events.
All right, so Publicity, you know, fewer and fewer labels have this going on. It's all about the indies. the supply-demand curve's all out of whack, meaning all these publicists that used to be employed by labels now are freelancers, so it means that their rates are going down. But be careful what you pay for. I've said before, Publicity is the only business where you get paid to try. There's no results needed, apparently. You pay, you know, and this, for whatever reason, is the thing bands seem to want more than anything. One of the other reasons I delight in social media is it's made these people largely irrelevant. You can now connect directly to the people that matter, but the good ones still matter. Getting good press still matters as part of a bigger kind of concerted effort, but it has to be part of your overall plan. It can't just be, you know, okay, we got a review here. I say don't ever even bother with this unless you're touring, right? Unless you can get somebody that's saying, okay, I'm going into this market, what local blogs, what local papers can you get us some you know, coverage in? Just putting a record out and sending it to the press is the stupidest thing I can think of.
And
right?
certain publicists are phenomenal tour publicists.
Right.
They make sure that you're getting the support the gig needs. I mean, that's the amazing thing, is it affects the top line, you know, not just the bottom line. Right. It affects how many people walk through that door. It's pretty amazing that what a good publicist can do just by getting placements a week before the gig. You know, you bring people's attention to the you know, the previews, interviews, feature previews. Those things bring a lot of bodies in the door. We will engage a publicist. We have a publicist we love and trust, and we've had a long relationship with her, and we still only engage her for finite engagements.
And that's important too.
And very targeted, you know, outcomes. If it's not tour, it's because there is a big story to tell, and we need to tell it loud. And what's good about a publicist, what makes it worth your while, is when they can concentrate coverage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing of beauty to see a publicist really do a great job concentrating coverage so that a whole crap load of stuff hits
at the same time.
The week the record comes out, or the week that it matters, because somebody's asked me. You know, somebody always asks, does press sell records? Does anything, certain things, sell records? And it's always something in combination with a lot of other impressions that matters, and you know, press alone does not sell records. I can say with a great deal of certainty.
I don't think anything alone sells records.
Right.
You know,
it's just part of the story. It's part of the massive number of impressions you need to make on somebody's life before they'll pull a trigger.
But I would say that this is one of these things that gets us into the offline online world, right? The press needs the offline stuff happening in order to get you any online. And by online I mean like blogs, but also newspapers or whatever. You gotta play. You cannot get somebody to write about your great record. It will not happen. They will occasionally write about you coming to town, right? So the role, you know, the print outlets, web, publicists do handle kind of the fresh airs, the NPR stuff, events, and this sometimes can be worth it if you're going to do a record release party, if you're going to do some event. As Billy says, having everything funnel to that one thing and somebody to coordinate that. And so, this is hard. Those of you who've had to write your own bios, no, it's really hard to write your own bio. So having somebody that's a good writer, doesn't have to be a publicist necessarily, I put this on here just because I'd like you guys to think, you all need bios of some sort. And the problem most of the time, and managers often get thrust into this role, you're so self-conscious about writing yourself, you do the wrong thing, where you get clever or jokey or something, or you get too self-deprecating.
Or you get too artificial.
Artificial,
you start to write like a brochure. You know?
Yep. So it is an important role.
I like to find the best writer I know and ask them to do it for money.
Yeah.
You know, we'll pay them. But we go to, now we're blessed, we have writers who are friends, you know, people around us, and we're like, please, oh please, oh please, oh please, write a bio. We'll pay you, we'll make it worth your while. It's hard. And it gets harder the more you're in, the longer you're in it. It gets harder and harder to distill everything down to a page.
It's one page.
It's got to be a page, and it's like, you know, you've been doing it for 20 years. It's hard.
How well do you think the writer needs to know you, like,
I mean, they have to be able to organize the facts, I suppose. You know, you need to, what they're doing, what the bio is meant to do is to orient the, you know, the press outlet, whoever the editor is, the person making the decision about the coverage, to where the story is. Like, what's valuable here? Why might this appeal to my readers? So, you know, I mean, we're always challenged to balance the bio. How much do we want to talk about the fact that Kristen is a singer-songwriter who's raised 4 boys while homeschooling them? Yeah. Like, because maybe that's going to get certain people to cover her.
Women who eat yogurt.
Women who eat yogurt. The gray hoodie crowd.
But it is, I mean, it is important to have some objectivity, to have somebody, you know, you guys are an interesting band, to have somebody that can come in. You know, the best bio writers in my experience are ones that will spend some time, interview the band as if they are a writer for, you know, and that gets the band talking. And the other thing to remember about bios or press releases or whatever is that the writers are lazy. They're going to take a chunk from that bio or press release and just stick it in their article.
Oh yeah, don't be surprised. You'll see your preview.
You see your own words.
You'll see your preview. It'll be your paragraph with your quote. You know, include quotes in your bio.
I was just going to say that.
That's a really important thing.
Quotes
about the record
samples,
or about the tour.
Yeah, we wrote this based on this. Do not say we sound like Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith, you know, Arcade Fire or whatever, but you can say you were influenced by, you can say that you've opened for, that contextualizes it.
Yeah.
These schemas, you know, to try and contextualize it fast. Page, one page.
Schema.
So radio, fewer and fewer labels have these people. I mean, you know, if they exist at all. But again, just like you know, press, it's now more of a buyer's market. You had all these people that were employed by labels that are now setting up shop. In my opinion, the only format that, you know, this is the spectrum, and I think, you know, this is worth talking about very briefly. You start at the bottom with CMJ, which is the College Music Journal, which, you know, still, I guess, panels all of the college stations, the charts, right?
Still happen.
Then you move up to non-commercial AAA. AAA stands for Adult Album Alternative, and it was originated to kind of play the album, deep cuts rather than singles, right? Non-com means that it's funded by, you know, listeners. So you get some blur between, most of these are college stations.
Yeah.
We don't have one here, but
KEXP.
Yeah, XPN in Philadelphia, if anybody knows that one. KCRW in Santa Monica.
What's that? No.
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 TUL is Tulane.
TUL is
they're CMJ. They're just a college station.
Right.
WOZ it's
but
closer,
not
but it's not AAA. Their format is too
jazz,
blues, jazz, you know, New Orleans. If WOZ played
eclectic
Jacob Dylan and you know, I mean, that's like, unfortunately AAA has become really like singer-songwriter, like Jonathan Brooke and all that. Which is, you know, it's not bad, it's just kind of boring. David Gray, you know. So then up here is commercial AAA, where unsurprisingly you hear commercials, right? Again, we don't have one here. In Boston, WBOS is a commercial AAA station.
The River?
The River, all the River, well, the River stations are AC, I think, most of the time, adult contemporary stations. So in just about every city, there's something with an RV in the call letters, and those are the River stations. Adult contemporary, John Mayer, right? Adult contemporary is all about dentist office type stuff.
Smile while you're at work.
Yeah, exactly. They really, really embrace the idea that if they play anything at all that you are not familiar with, you will turn the dial. Down here, you get, you know, they'll try something every once in a while. Up here, John Mayer, Sting, right? You know, to my mind, it's really hard to listen to. Hot AC, you know, will start to get, you'll get Beyonce or something in here too, right? CHR means Contemporary Hits Radio, which also is inclusive of urban, country, Latin, you know, and it's just big time hits, and then top 40 is what it is, which, you know, this stuff starts to blur. Every step of the way it gets more expensive. So down here you can do a CMJ radio campaign. You can get your music on WTUL, WBUR in Providence. You know, there are lots of killer college stations out there that make a difference. FMU, right? For couple grand or less or nothing if you service them, you know. And there's no payola, there's none of that crap. The DJs kind of play what they're going to play. Here, 5 to 20 grand to actually have anything meaningful happen at a non-com AAA level.
And what you mean by that is, I mean, you know, what are we thinking? Spins, 25 spins a week?
Yeah, not a lot.
Something.
You know, if that. I mean, if you're
15?
getting, yeah, something in that range.
Used to be, I mean, you kind of needed 25
to make an impact.
to make an impact,
And then this, you know, expensive, 40, 50 grand. This, hundreds of thousands,
Do you
millions
understand
of
what we
dollars.
mean when we say you're spending money? You're going to a radio promoter, right? You know that? You know, when we're saying
don't
it's
think they do.
expensive, who do we pay?
Yeah.
Who are we hiring?
So in between the label, the individual, whatever, in these stations, there's the radio promoter. And this person is the one that has relationships with the program directors, the people that actually supposedly pick what music gets played. In order to get this person's influence to influence the program directors, you pay. Now, they get around payola, so you don't just give them $1,000, although that happens every single second. But what they say is, okay, you're buying into a program. So some station will do a flyaway. They'll say, okay, the 13th caller gets to go to Bermuda and hear John Mayer, right? And what's happened is all of these poor labels have paid into that pool. They've paid their dues, right? With the hope that they'll get some influence, but there's not a direct, this is how you get around payola, not a direct correlation between the play of your record and money.
Right.
There's money going in, but that money's going to fly someone to see John Mayer, not to get your record played.
And the PD and his
the PD,
wife.
and the PD and his wife.
Yeah.
But we all know exactly what's happening. And people like Michelle Clark, I mean, it is.
And the other thing is, I mean,
A world you don't even
labels
wanna
do the
think
thing
about.
where, you know, they have a big band and they have a baby band. And so they say, hey, we have John Mayer, but we also have, you know, the Bottle
Spoon.
Caps.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And we want you to play that Bottle Caps record, so we'll do this John Mayer flyaway. We'll send 3 lucky listeners and, you know, to the Caribbean.
And from here up, major label. It's the last hold that the majors have. You can do, individuals can do here, they cannot do here. And here's why. Even if they had the money, the people in between you and the radio plays are going to these stations every week with Sony's money, with Warner's money, with whoever. If you come in and say, look, I'll pay it too, they will take your money. They will play your record at a time when only insomniacs and long-haul truckers are awake, and then never take it again. Because you're coming once when the rest of the people are coming every week. So that's where it just walls off here.
Right.
And some of you will get tempted, as I have, to go into this world, and you will get smacked on the head, and you'll be poorer for it. So, you know, but there are people, and again, back to David Gray, he went do. Now he's back here, but he did do it. He rode all the way up. John Mayer too, do. Took all the steps. Every once in a while, someone does. I can't think of anyone. Nora Jones started down here, all the way up. So it does happen every once in a while. Has anybody done it recently? I don't even know. Jack Johnson, but I don't know.
It's not
Did he
that
ever
recent.
get up to here? You know, he kind of stayed in this realm.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, it's a little off topic, but promotion, like what would you put the noun form of being a promoter for young kids?
What now?
What would be the noun form of like being a promoter?
What is it called when you're a promoter, not a radio promoter?
Oh, a promoter versus promotions.
Yeah.
So a promotions person.
Like a radio promotions
versus,
person
versus a concert promoter. So it's subtle. So the cost, you can do these indies, you know, and I recommend them. I mean, people like the Syndicate, if they're still around, or AAM. There's a firm in Athens called Team Claremont.
Team Claremont, yeah.
That do a pretty good job for your $1,000. If you're an indie artist,
You drop your $1,500 and they get you played and you hit the charts and it sells some records.
well, and it introduces you to these program directors that then get jobs. Did you wonder why Grizzly Bear got played last night or Arcade Fire? It's because some college DJ is now an ad supervisor. And they say, I'm going to put my friend's Grizzly Bear on. Again, just like press, don't do this unless the band is touring. Because what you really want to have is Team Claremont say, look, they're coming through Princeton, New Jersey. Princeton's got, surprisingly, a pretty good college station. can they do an on-air? Vampire Weekend is getting is poised to do this run.
Yeah.
Vampire Weekend, I don't know if they'll do it, but they're poised.
Right.
Okay, so going through and making sure you're on the road, then these guys have something to work with. They're playing a gig, they're playing a house party, and they can go visit the radio station.
I did radio promotion as my first record company job. I did it for this record company a long time ago, in TVT.
Oh,
brutal.
Steve.
It was the longest 3 months of my life. But I did radio promo, and what they always called it was ammunition. What's the ammo? Like, what ammunition do you have in the gun? Like, well, we're coming to your town. Right. That's a bullet in the gun, right? There's a brand new record. That's a bullet in the gun. There's, you need ammo to make them do something. You need to like load up like your arguments for them paying attention. It's their attention you need to earn first, and then, hopefully they'll get listeners' attention.
I feel the same about press.
Same thing.
Your ammo is they're coming through town. Can you do a concert preview?
Right. You need a story. You need some reason to pay attention. Somebody had their hand up.
Oh,
Jason?
sorry. Yeah, a bunch of hands.
Any kind of promotions or anything with satellites?
That's a great question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's now an area of someone's responsibility. Generally, it's what, non-com.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get the non-com promoters, the
They'll work.
Sean Coakleys of the world, and so like on
Like the
XM,
Loft.
the Loft, Mike
Yeah.
Marone was the radio guy
Yeah, yeah.
for Ryko and Kristen and everything else. Now he's the DJ at the Loft, so they go and they work him the same way. And it's one of the reasons, frankly, why I think satellite has failed in the way it has, because satellite is not a true alternative to terrestrial radio. It's just terrestrial radio that costs something, right? The true alternative is the internet radio or whatever, where people just playing whatever the hell they want. And nobody's really yet gamed that system. But yeah, satellite, they're absolutely promotions people, and it's essentially old radio guys that have now gone to satellite.
Yeah, and they're like curating shows almost. I mean, it's a channel.
Some of it's good.
Right?
I mean,
some of it is good, but
it's the same system.
Right, right.
I did my current event on the RIAA trying to make ultra license for radio broadcasters to charge artists and labels to play. No, they would charge the broadcasters to pay the artists. So,
Well, no. What's happened is there's a performance royalty revision act. As you know, right now under U.S. copyright law, only the writer gets paid for performance royalties. So there's something that's making its way through various House subcommittees right now
508,
to change that so that the performer would get paid as well as the label, right? Because that's the way it is in the rest of the world, except for the United States, North Korea, Iraq, and Iran.
Yeah.
So we're in good company, right?
Yeah.
And it's the way it is online in the States through Sound Exchange. So
And
yeah, the RIAA is trying to push that through.
And it is kind of a big deal, in with regard to the fact that Europe, obviously pays artists and labels, but they don't pay us, our artists and labels, because we don't pay theirs.
We don't pay theirs. So
And
there's black box money. And
yeah, there's like this negative reciprocation there that's a real drag. And
The RIAA is trying to push that through or trying to stamp it out?
push it through.
Push it through.
Because they're the lobbying group for the labels.
HR 508, I think it is, the House resolution that basically wants to institutionalize Sound Exchange.
Anyone know why it's being resisted, or why it may not pass? What do politicians get from radio?
Yeah.
What did Mitch Landrieu get and everything?
Reduced ad costs.
They get the lowest ad cost for the politics. So all the radio stations, when these politicians come and say, look, you guys should pass this thing, they say, fine, but you politician, you're going to now pay the same rate as everybody else.
Yeah.
So, politics. So don't underestimate CMJ. For a lot of you guys out there, it is something that's that can be beneficial. Retail. So obviously, thank the Lord, traditional retail is down here, not the other way around. iTunes, the aggregators, whatever. Get it, make it available everywhere. I don't see any downside, maybe you disagree, having your record available.
No,
right?
I mean, we had a free record that we put up at iTunes, and we sold a shitload of them.
Yeah.
It was a free record.
Yeah, you're giving it away, you put it on iTunes, you charge for it, and you
Yeah.
figure out, I've already talked about, you do the math, what works best for you. Traditional retail, there's SIMS, which is the Coalition of Independent Music Stores. It's, was it 39, 29?
I thought it was like 40-something. I thought it was 40-something.
It's less than you think. Maybe it's 39.
Ames, well, Ames add Ames in.
Right, then you're probably at 40.
Right.
So these are the stores that you guys know and love. Waterloo Records in Austin, Newberry Comics in Boston.
Criminal in Atlanta.
Criminal in Atlanta. What else?
Amoeba.
Amoeba in San Francisco. The good record stores. So they've come together under this umbrella, and you can kind of get your record into those retailers. Frankly, they're the only ones left. Yeah. And you pay co-op programs to do it. They came together so they could get co-op money. What's co-op money? Anybody know? So co-op money is for price and positioning. If you want your CD to be present in a store on a, by the cash register with headphones or whatever, and you pay for that.
Like at the end of a section,
It ain't free. So, again, happily, this hasn't, iTunes does co-op in a weird way. They don't charge you for it, but they demand exclusive content. So if you want positioning on the iTunes website, you got to give them something that they and only they have.
iTunes exclusive. How often do you see that?
Worth doing some research on SIMS to make sure in terms of getting your records somewhere, and you managers are going to have to deal with this. Every artist in the world is going to say, but man, I need my record in the stores. And the right answer is, sure, but let's figure out which stores.
Right, and SIMS has Junket Boy now too, which is distributor. So it's like an alternative distributor, so that it's sort of turnkey distribution, easy to get your record carried by them, and then it's carried by SIMS. It's like working with a one-stop or.
Once you get to a certain level, right? They're not going to pay any attention until you you sell some records regionally.
But it's there.
Yep. So and then the last thing I wanted to hit on this part is there was an interesting post on
oh yeah,
the Top Spin blog today. If this is working or not. And it lines up with what we were talking about last week in terms of where your money should go. And here's a little funnel, right? So the way they're seeing it, and everybody knows I like funnels. I just make them martini glasses too. And I don't think people are getting that these are histograms, but I'll leave that aside. So the first level is discovery, getting somebody to even know you exist through fan sites, blogs, music services, whatever. Then engagement, getting people to kind of play or share or do something, word of mouth. Acquisition, email, getting somebody to actually give you an email, right? And then finally monetization. And I say it's a histogram because this should be a lot of people. This is going to be less, and finally the least amount. And then what they do is that they go down and they talk about. This
is cool. I like this slide, actually.
So the frequency of transactions at price ranges, right? And so you've got, you talk through the data if you want.
It's just an important lesson, I think. 50% of the transactions occur at under $10, but they add up to less than 18% of the revenue, right? You make less than 18% of your money on like half of these low-cost transactions. More than 50% of the revenue is earned at price points over $25. Now, we see this at Cash.
Yeah.
Like we get these high-ticket items. They're the things that stimulate sales, really. And the other funny thing about Cash, which we discovered, so, we have that pay what you want blank.
Yep.
When you download a song, you pay what you want. Our average transaction there, we pre-fill it at $3.
Right.
But they're downloading a digital copy of a song, and our average price is $7.
So
for a song.
And this has been beaten to our head by retailers that have said push lower. Artists are leaving money on the table. You as managers have got to find ways to bundle things together and get that price point up. Not everyone's going to buy it, but those that do will make up so much more of your revenue than just selling stuff at 99 cents or $9. Bundle stuff together.
funny. I was reading the Kickstarter blog
yeah.
today because I needed to figure out how I could get an invitation for somebody. And their little how-to craft a Kickstarter campaign it would be illuminating to you guys. How to bring value to people, how to stimulate, like a couple of premiums, like to have a premium at small, medium, large, and extra large.
Yep.
To offer premiums so that to stimulate certain kinds of participation. The same thing applies with music offerings.
Right. So again, I mean, these are my lines. I don't know if they're stealing it directly from me or if we're just thinking the same way, but you can't leave money on the table. Your $10 product, so find at least one package in each of the following categories. Less than 15, 15, 50, and greater than 50. Yeah. Up here, what you want to focus on is perceived value. So that should be something, remember we talked at the beginning of the class, something that is scarce, right? Signatures, short runs of things that go away. It doesn't cost you anything more to sign something and number it, but it's perceived very high.
Anything handmade too.
Handmade.
Here's secret of the trade. 1 cent stamps are incredibly, they're so oddly priced. You buy this thing for 1 cent. It's a lithograph that you could never make for 1 cent. It's just inherently valuable. But you buy 1 cent stamps and you stick them on your package and you have a rubber stamp and you stamp them and you make it something that's just, they're all one of a kind. They're all handmade. That just brings some incredible value.
You've got to think low cost, high perceived value. And the great thing about that, I mean, you guys are all creative. So, and this is what I want to see in your projects too, by the way. So, and here's where you get into some reality, right? So, these are the different kind of tracks. Email conversion. So if you get 10% of the visitors, so you get all these visitors and you only get 10%, that's conservative. Normal is 15%. So if 100 people come to your site and you get 15% people to sign up for your email, you're doing okay. And then if you actually get sales, only 8%. So 100 people come to your site, 8 people are going to buy, right? That tells you how many people you really need to get going to this site. You need thousands, right? Email acquisition, right? All of this stuff is really important.
Can I just say also to the unconvinced, that's where social media matters. Again, I mean, not to have to drive this home, but when you can get exponential awareness, exponential growth, or geometric growth, that is what matters right now. You need to reach so many people. You got to increase the potential fast. Just a few years ago, that you didn't have a hope of getting those kinds of numbers.
And this is why I just preach and preach and preach on email, right? Email has the conversion of all the other things. So if you're not setting up something for that email capture, email has the best conversion followed by direct traffic and search. You need to capture those emails and then start sending something out to people on a regular basis. And it's cool when it grows. You start with 10 people and the next week you got 20. It's an amazing kind of, you feel like you're doing something.
What's been surprising to me lately, Kristen sends an email to something like 7,000 people, and in every email she includes some reference to her MySpace, to her Facebook profile and her Twitter profile. And after every email, we get a surge, every email, a surge of 100 or so followers or friend requests. Just how weird is that? Like, why don't they all move on the same day?
But how about your Google Analytics?
Right.
I mean, I see it every time anyone I work with shoots out an email blast. The spike just goes like that. It makes you want to send an email every day, which you can't do, but it's crazy, the impact that it has. It's the only thing I'm sure of.
Think about email at least once a month, preferably twice a month.
I'd say once a week.
You can do once a week if you got a good story to tell.
Keep it short, bite-sized. Do not tell your life story. Bite-sized and actionable. All right, let's see. I'm just going to keep going if it's all right, and then get out a little bit early rather than take a break. If I need to go to the bathroom, just go ahead, but I'm just going to keep going.
I was going to say the other funny, that idea bears out with the Cash Music example again, because we offered these premium tiers. We had all these, we had subscriptions available at $10 a quarter and $30 a quarter. We got a ton of those, which are pure profit and they're wonderful to have. But just for fun, we said you can also buy a $500 subscription, one-time payment of $500, and that gets you the studio privileges. You can come to a recording session if you want to. And then we offered $1,000 for your name on the CD, a sponsor credit on the CD, and $5,000 for an executive producer credit. And I said this in my other class, we got subscribers at all levels. We got a lot of subscribers at the studio level, which was shocking to me. We got a pretty big fistful at the sponsor level. And we got one at the executive producer level. Now add them up and see how they compare to the other revenue that we generated. The revenue for song downloads, the revenue for even subscribers. Like those few transactions, relatively few transactions, just tip the scales in terms of
If we hadn't
money.
done the $500 Carly box,
Yeah.
it would have been a waste of time to do.
Right.
There are a lot of people who bought the $10 CD, the $15 DVD. Not that many people bought a $500 box.
Right.
You don't need that many people to buy a $500
That's right.
box to really, make it worthwhile. All right, so what we've been talking about through this is this idea of execution, right? Systems. I'm trying profoundly and with all of my effort to get you guys to believe in systems, to believe that if you structure some things that you can measure, that it will reduce the amount of variance, reduce the amount of human error, and give you a chance to succeed. But you've got to have a system, right? You're converting an input into an output, right? You're converting some music into email addresses. You convert whatever your conversion is. And then these processes are what's underneath the overarching system. And this goes back to our I'll post these slides, so I'm going to move kind of quickly. But you have to, the reason that we went through all of those little elements of radio, press, or whatever, as a manager, you got to know every process. You got to know about retail. You got to know about radio. You can learn on the job. You're going to have to learn on the job. But if you think that you can just wall this off and say, okay, well, I'm going to hire someone to do press, how will you know if they're doing a good job?
Yeah, you can't
if you
supervise.
haven't done it.
You can't supervise at that point. You're not a responsible supervisor.
Right. And this becomes a drag. And so this is where system theory, and any of you who really want to geek out over the summer, read Peter Senge's Fifth Discipline. But what this does is it starts moving things away from the personal, right? So you're not pointing fingers all the time. If something isn't working, you don't have to be the bad guy. You've created a system that people have bought into, and you can say, look, are we measuring it? Are you doing what you're going to do? Okay, then you're not operating within this system. And it's up to you to maintain the standards. You look at the cultures of the organizations that work, and they all share similarities. People are kind of psyched to be there. People know what they want to do. People feel free enough to move within that system to innovate, but they're not drifting all over the place. And that's a hard thing with a band. It's a hard thing with management generally. So we started the class with an idea of some sort of mission, some sort of mantra. And I'm big on the energy. Go where there's energy. Create that energy, and the metrics will help. You will see when you send out that email blast, right? And you get the spike in your Google Analytics, you're psyched. Yeah. And it was my point of like, I wrote a blog post about in the old days when it was like SoundScan day, the energy level would just go down week after week. This new way, the energy level should be going up. If you're not getting one more email address than the week prior, something's really wrong. Mm-hmm. Coordinate the processes, right? Let me just go through some of this pretty fast. Contact with customers, right? And that's another social media thing. The reason Verizon's failing and their Twitter feed is because they still have a wall between their customers. It's them spouting something out and their customers going, fuck you, right? And if your customer's saying fuck you, address it. The conversation has started. You can engage in it or not, right? And you as a band, you want people talking. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Were you going to say something?
No, I was thinking.
So again, and Billy mentioned total quality management, earlier, and yeah, that was Toyota, and not anymore, right? I mean, this stuff goes away, but Deming was tasked with going over there and reducing variance, and you get into Six Sigma and 1 error per billion or whatever. But you know, and it resonated with me so much when you were talking about going into the clubs and advancing shows. That's reducing variance. And it reduces variance so that your artist can step on stage with confidence.
Right.
She knows that if you're going to advance the show, certain things are not going to change. They're
Right.
going to be the same, so she can play a good show.
Including
you
the
don't
mood.
advance the show, and you get a bad result.
Including the mood of the show. Like,
Yeah.
like the working conditions for a touring musician. Part of the working conditions is like what it feels like to be there. If everybody's hostile and having a shitty time and at each other and kind of resentful, or they're not performing up to their their peak abilities. You know, I was also, you kind of breezed by the idea of energy being directed and focused. There's this idea of intention, just having a clear intent is a huge part of management, I think. Just knowing what it is you want, knowing what it is you're after, knowing what you want this result to be.
Moving towards the goal, right?
Just know the goal. If you only know it and you firmly place that intention there, it makes everything easy.
But I mean, I think about, no errors are produced, and it's not people. So you could, in theory, if you find the right person, teach somebody how to advance a show.
Yeah.
You could give them a list of things. Now, there's a human aspect.
Absolutely, yeah.
But there's a list of things, and at that point, if it screws up, the system may need to be addressed, but it's probably not a human error. And that's, it gets so upset when people get blamed for stuff like it's the system that failed you.
It's funny too. You can systematize some of the human stuff. Like we have a hospitality writer that asks for all this stuff, right? Lots of stuff. The best thing I can do is when they say, "Okay, now about the hospitality writer," I say, "I don't care about any of it. It's okay. Don't sweat it." Well, then it's funny. The person advancing the gig starts to take the other side. Well, you need something. I got to get you something. What can I get you?
That's interesting.
What's important? It's like, well,
that's interesting.
love a little fresh fruit, love a little,
right.
Like a bottle of champagne, like not a freshenette, fine, that's good for us. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely. They make absolutely sure they've overperformed. They outdo what I've asked them to do. They had this rider in front of them that says we need yogurt and hummus and salads and all this crap, and I say, you know what?
Don't worry about it.
That's a drag. Don't worry about it.
I know a label that anytime somebody orders a CD from, they write them a hand note back.
Yeah.
And that little gesture is a system that anyone that comes to work for the label sees that, and it imparts their value.
Anytime someone buys something from our online store, we respond to them in real time. I mean, a real email, and we reference what it is they bought and why it matters to us. And it's incredible. Because it does it is, I was going to say it flatters us, but it touches us. We're a family business. It touches us that somebody decided today to crack their wallet and buy a thing from us, one of our things. So one of us writes them a note and says, the fact that you bought Throwing Muses stuff, or, oh, you were into 50-Foot Wave, awesome, thank you so much. That's so great. It means the world to us. It's amazing the note we get back.
Yeah, right. And the repeated visits. Yeah. You've got to set this tone. I can't remember. I'm trying to think. There should be some times where you say to some band member, you get to do that once, right? They've done something so. Oh, I remember what it was. So some band was supposed to play. Here's a good band story. They're supposed to make they had a show in Houston where the label was. On the way to the show, the lead singer was drunk and gets in a fight with his girlfriend, pushes her out of the car. The other band member gets out of the car and goes and rescues the girlfriend, which causes a fight with the singer. Singer drives off and ends up getting arrested, right? No show. What do you say as manager to that? Right? I'll give you another example. I signed a young artist, and he was starting to get a little bit of momentum back in the radio, starting to get something at AAA. And he had a radio show at KGSR in Austin, Texas, one of the big AAA stations. Too tired to do the show, the on air. I got a call from Jody Denberg. He said, we'll never play him again, ever, right? You got to call the artist and say, this seemed like a small thing to you. You get to do this once. If you do it again, we're done.
That's great.
It's a great way to handle it.
Yeah, you can do this once.
you get- you
Well, it's a brilliant strategy too, because the horse is out of the barn, right? What are you going to do? You shouldn't have, you begin scolding. You can't do that. That's not how you manage people.
If they do it again, you don't want them in your system, right? The system is set up for you to do certain things. If they're going to be an outlier to that, and we all screw up. But if you allow it to repeatedly happen, then you're part of a bad system. So, you know what? Let's pick up from here next time. We'll go through the key processes. Any questions on this? All right.